You cannot predict the future. First big advice I'm going to give you is enjoy the failure. That is the best part of your journey. And I've done that a lot in my life. Money is incidental. Some people change their careers, etc. for money. Frankly, my belief is money follows. Every time I'm looking for a change, the first part there is, am I going to learn more? The second criteria in the framework is, am I going to have fun? And the third criteria there is there wealth creation for me? Those are the three filters I put, and if those ticks are better or that grid is better than what I'm doing right now, I'll make the change. Hey.
Chest hair. Hi guys.
Hi. Sorry I'm late. My apologies, and thank you for moving the time from the morning to the afternoon. I had a clash which came up last minute, so I wasn't able to make it in the morning. My apologies, but thank you for being here and for listening to me.
No, absolutely. You were doing important things, and so you are excused.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what were you busy with in the morning?
I was keynoting at Auto Expo.
See, that's okay. We let you.
My office unfortunately mixed up the invites and they clashed. And Pratham is a friend, so I reached out and said, "Look, help me here," and I had to be there. Yes.
How was Auto Expo this year?
Actually, I didn't go to too many stalls.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the Google stall. Google has a stall there, so I was there, and I went to the Mercedes stall because we have a common friend with Mercedes. So I was at the Mercedes stall.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, I didn't really look. I'm going to probably do a 1.5x screening in the streaming in the evening to quickly look through what happened.
So, why does Google need to have a stall at Auto Expo?
Because the world is changing, right? If you look at auto today, did anybody read the announcement Google just made with Mercedes? Anybody here who read the announcement? No? Okay, we didn't do a good job of PR then. I think the way the world is changing, so the announcement was that we're putting an agentic framework within the automobile, which means, and we're going to connect it with Google Maps. So there's navigation, there's of course Gemini, and which is Google's AI engine. How many people from tech here?
Everyone.
Everyone's tech?
Somewhere or the other.
Who's non-tech? Okay, let me start with you. Who's not from tech? How many of you, no, keep your hands up. Keep your hands up. How many of you don't understand when I say LLM? How many of you don't understand that? See, that's why Mercedes and auto needs AI and tech. So that's why we were there.
Got it. So what's the announcement? What will the Mercedes will have a Gemini
today
agent?
We were actually, what we did was, so that was the announcement we did last week. So there is Gemini there. So Mercedes already has a UX, which is
the dashboard.
MBUX. I think you folks, whoever has ridden a Mercedes or drives a Mercedes would know. So Gemini is going to support that. We've integrated maps into it, so navigation. So you could actually tell your car, hey, take me to a great place for dinner. I'm going with my family. I have two boys who are 12 and 16, and I have a girl who's 9. What would be the best place to go for dinner?
We need gluten-free and vegetarian.
We need gluten-free, vegetarian. And, we're looking for a dollar bill that's probably what? $50 a head?
Got it. And within 20 minutes.
And within 20 minutes, and Mercedes will tell you where to go. Right? So that's why Google has a stall there.
Will it also drive itself there yet? Or?
Well, Waymo does. So those of you who have been to San Francisco, who've tried Waymo as a Phoenix, I mean, Waymo does. It's a phenomenal experience. It's a little spooky when you sit in it the first time, when the steering wheel is moving and you're sitting behind and looking at it, trying to figure it out.
And it talks to you.
And it talks to you.
Hi, Pratham.
Yeah.
How was your day?
Yeah. So, well, let's see. The world will come to that as well.
So, how far are we from Waymo in India?
Look, I can't give timelines, but what I can tell you is that there are going to be two kinds of applications there, right? There's going to be cars, or if I could call it consumer, right? And then there's going to be fleet, which is going to be, think of commercial transport, trucks, etc. I think the second one is probably going to see, it's a question of density, right? I think transportation as a use case will probably get solved first. because highways allow you to operate, um, you know,
So trucking and
trucking,
cargo,
etc.
etc.
Because the reason why density is important is because, see, it's a program, right? It's AI, it's enabled. So the car is going to be told that you will only take a right turn when there is a 10-meter distance between you and the automobile coming from the opposite direction, right? Now, if everybody follows traffic rules with good civic sense, uniformity, then yeah, that works. But sometimes in markets, that may not be the case. So, the car will keep waiting, and it will keep waiting for that 10-meter distance. So it may not be a practical application to launch. At some point, I'm sure, markets like India will open up. But I believe the commercial side of driverless would probably come to high density markets first, because what you do is you drive a truck to the point A on the highway and then let it go, right? And then you collect it at point B and take it into the high density area.
The last mile you will do yourself.
Right. High density areas would probably have that as a better application, or the application that comes first, and then, I guess driverless cars at some point in time. Let's see, who knows? We may just see taxis, air taxis before that. So
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I think it's crazy. I mean, imagine drones and air taxis all over. I don't know.
You think that's more, that's sooner than self-driving
I
vehicles
don't
on
know.
the road?
Indigo's. I saw an announcement. Indigo's gone and signed up. They're buying some of these and launching them in India.
These flying
Look,
taxis.
one thing I've learned being in the world of technology, you cannot predict the future. You don't know what's every. It was it was what, February 2023 when Satya Nadella got on stage and spoke about ChatGPT.
2023, yeah.
Right,
Now.
Feb 2023 is when it was. Just 2 years. The world has completely changed. And it was 13 months ago that we launched Gemini. I mean, we had other models, we had Palm, etc., that we had, already got out there in the market, but we did Gemini 13 months ago. And it's unbelievable what Gemini is doing today. Multimodal, right? How many people here are familiar with Gemini? Raise your hands. Oh, awesome. Awesome. We're doing our job well on PR there.
How many of you are using Gemini over ChatGPT? It's not bad, not bad.
Okay. Well, how many of you have tried Gemini 2.0? What do you think about that versus what you're seeing? I won't take names of competing products, but what do you think about that?
At certain tasks, it's much better at getting data from the internet. The tasks that need information, more comprehensive and more accurate. But on customizable and creative things, the competition is better. And at research into documents, another I use Claude for research. ChatGPT is better for custom things, and Google Gemini gives me better information from the internet.
So that's really what the world is going to come to, right? There is going to be a specific use case where one specific model will be better. And that's Google's belief as well. So Gemini is a model. What we are actually launching out there, or what we put out there, is a platform called Vertex, right? Vertex is a platform that allows you. So when you're using AI, you need a number of things. You need prompt engineering. Then you're going to need security. You're going to need privacy. You're going to need billing, etc., etc., etc. So what Google is doing is we're saying, here's a platform. It's called Vertex. You enter the platform. We'll give you all of these features, and then at the back end, you're going to have models. You're going to have Llama, which is a third-party model. You're going to have Anthropic. You're going to have Gemini. You're going to have Google models. So you have open source models. You have third-party models. You have Google models. Because we truly believe that as an organization, your ask of a model is going to keep changing. I just heard exactly what you said, right? If you move this to think about this in a business environment, think about enterprise. The model that works for something like quality control on a shop floor for manufacturing in an auto environment. Let's say you're a car manufacturer, right? You want Vision AI to basically figure out quality control. You want to make sure your door is perfect, etc., etc. That same model may not be the right model when you're doing internal employee HR, right? You may need a different model. And you may need a different model when you're looking at, your sales teams, where you're helping them automate sales pitches, etc. So that is really what the world is coming to. There will be multi-models. I think it's a world where you're going to have to allow users, consumers, customers, enterprises to use as much as they want, give them the openness of doing that. And that's what we do at Google.
But could you just explain in layman terms for people here, especially for the undergrad kids who are all of 17, 18, exactly what that means in practice?
I can lay a bet here. If I ask the question, how many people here know agentic frameworks? Everybody will raise their hands. How many people here know agentic frameworks? Oh, really? I know something more than you. Okay.
I think they understand kuch hai, there's something about agents, this, that, but exactly what it is and in practice, what does it look like?
Do we understand the concept of multimodality here? Multimodality means your ability to understand multiple inputs. Can be video, can be chat, can be speech, can be pictures, images, etc. Right? So whatever you give the model as inputs, right? The model's ability to be able to take different kinds of inputs and then be able to process it simultaneously and give you different kinds of outputs in different formats. That's multimodality, right? So now we've
Everyone
done
get that, right? Yeah.
right. So now we've done multimodality. Now what starts to happen is we say, okay, let me take you through the life of a human being. Let me give you an imaginary future, right? Actually, not imaginary. Let me tell you, I believe this is coming, right? Let's think of a kid who's like probably 7, 8. By the time, their parents give them a mobile phone or some electronic device or some interface which is electronic in nature. And think of that child starting to talk to that particular voice. Let's call it an agent, right? And keep asking the agent questions. So in the past, the child would say, help me with a math problem, help me with X, help me with Y. Now think of a world where the child starts, is carrying the phone around and has the camera on and walks by something, let's say a table which has this bottle and a glass on it, and suddenly stops and says, hey X or Y or whatever the name of the agent is, I left my water bottle behind. Do you know where it is? And Y says, yeah, you left it on the table behind. Right? That's your agent. And that will start coming through in every field. Now that child gets to 12, 13, starts going to school, and hence starts asking why about mathematical problems and in general questions in general about life, etc., guidance. Then that kid gets to college, right? And let's say you're doing computer science or whatever the new world will have to offer, and suddenly Y now becomes an expert in computer science. And then the kid gets married, and or before the kid gets married, the kid becomes, let's say, an agriculturist or a farmer. So Y now morphs to become a farmer who will give the kid advice on agriculture. And then Y gets married and Y has kids, and life goes on. The person gets married, has kids. Y is continuing the journey through life with them. Y knows that person way better than anybody else. Right? Maybe better than your spouse, your parents, etc., because you've been talking to Y all your life. And Y is not just giving you answers on help me solve a mathematical problem or what is the best solution for growing seeds here or what is what is the best feed to give to my child. Y is also walking along with you and helping you with daily tasks. Yes, right? I left my water bottle behind. Where are my car keys? I can't find them. Hey, I'm looking to design a code here which says this and this. What should I put in the middle? That's why.
Right.
Why is the agent
tomorrow as if I'm giving the speech? Yeah.
Why is the agent? That's the agentic framework in layman's language.
So what does that mean for a business? Let's say now you're talking about a company like Mercedes. In their daily business activities, operations, how do these agents then work, right?
Everywhere. You see, it would evolve across the board. Firstly, how you build the automobile, design, right? It's going to start from there. Forget design, even a step before that, understanding what the world needs as the next version of a car or an automobile. What should that really have as features in there? Imagine your ability to go look at every possible input across. How do they do it today? You have
You do
some smart
research,
people, you research.
Survey, research.
Right?
Yeah.
Imagine all that research that could come by using something like this with summarization as a capability. Right? And then from there, from design, you move to design, where you start designing the vehicle, you start putting it together. Design could mean visual design, design could mean mechanical design. All of that could come together to user experience, in vehicle experience. All of that would completely change your ability to connect with the world as you're driving. I need a Mac burger, where is that? I need this, I need that. To after sales service, how you're going to be able to respond to a customer. I in fact, at Auto Expo, at the Google stall, we had this demo up, which is great, where basically, if you have, imagine you have that manual of Mercedes. Every time you buy a car, you get a manual, right? Most of you get that physical manual. How many of you have ever read that manual?
Not after the first day.
My God, you have geeks in here. You read the full manual? Okay, wow. Okay, I should let the auto manufacturers know there are still people who do that. But on a serious note, most people don't. Right? Now, imagine if that whole manual were digitized and all you would say is, hey, I'm trying to figure out where the wiper blade, the right wiper blade switch is, etc., etc. Or you would ask a question about, when do I service this? What should my oil levels be? What should X be? What should Y be? You don't have to swift through the manual. Now, you're going to get an answer. So after sales service, multilingual. You have to set up call centers. Again, lots of vehicles now are coming with SOS buttons. You must have seen that, right? There's a button up there. If you press that for SOS, it connects to a call center. You want multilingual there. So across the value chain, as an automobile manufacturer, you're going to need to look at AI and technology and what's changing.
Now, let's say I'm the head of HR at Mercedes, and I want to hire.
Let's change brand.
Okay.
Let's get to another.
What's your favorite brand?
Let's get
Maruti.
to another industry.
Industry. Okay.
Let's look at finance, banks.
Let's look at finance. I'm the head of HR of Morgan Stanley, right? And I want to hire 500 investment bankers in the next 1 year, right? Let's assume that investment banking is still done by humans. And I want to go through all of those CVs, and I want to go through all of those interviews. And so how far are we, or are we already doing it?
Oh, it's happening.
It's already happening.
Summarization is a great use case, where you sift through the CVs, you tell the model what you need, and you're going to get a great set of shortlistings.
Then you train the model on your existing people who are good performers, who are not so good performers. You find the
basic stuff you could do. Like, you could start with real basic stuff by saying BE, electronics and communication,
That's
and
the
this and
basic
that.
stuff,
That's the basic stuff, right?
That's level 1.
Today, most times your recruiters, when they
Your
look
TA,
at your resume, are actually looking at only that.
Yeah.
Right? Because the hiring manager has told them, okay, it needs to be an
A top
engineer,
10
needs to have
college.
this. They will go and say this, 8 out of 10. Okay, makes sense. Hiring manager, would you like to have a look? AI can do that for you. Right? The recruiter should actually be looking at things beyond that. Right? The recruiter should be trying to figure out, okay, what was the experience? What did this person do? How relevant is that to our company?
How is the person's growth? The grades are getting better or worse over time?
All of that. Right? So at some point, that will come in. Right? But basic summarization is happening even now. Okay. I also know of companies who are building then the next stage, which is interview. And it's happening on both sides. The recruiting team as well as the candidates. How do you interview better? Right? What are the kinds of questions you would get, etc., etc. So the whole value chain is already developing, and it's going to continue to iterate and develop further.
So then this brings me to the next question, which is, now as someone who's trying to set up a company for tomorrow in the world of AI, how should I think about the opportunity, right? Like, if I'm trying to build that tool that does the automated AI interviews or automated AI selection, then how should I start thinking about my company? What should be my 0 to 1 journey? Should I be building my own LLM? Should I be using existing ones? If I'm building an existing one, does that mean I'll essentially get disrupted by a Gemini over a period of time? How do we build companies today in the AI era? It's not going to be the same. Earlier, we could build a SaaS, right? And we could stand on the leg of our sales team to build that. How do we do it today?
Look, I think how you build a company, keeping AI in mind, right, is the answer, is the question I'm going to try and answer.
Okay.
Right. First of all, I think it's so important for all of us to be aware of what AI can do for us, right? And we're going to have different personas. There will be technical personas, there will be people who will work with the LLMs, prompt engineers, etc. And then there will be user personas, your ability to use it, right? And it will get simpler and simpler in terms of, like, if I look at code now at Google, 25% of our code is written by Gemini, right? And we hire some really smart people on the tech side. Your first thing there is all of us need to be AI aware. And AI aware doesn't necessarily mean that you need to understand LLMs. What it means is your ability to either, if you're in tech, yeah, you should understand LLMs. But if you're not in tech, your ability to essentially understand how to use it, right? That's going to be part one. Part two is going to be, I think your business idea is still going to be very relevant. I don't think AI is going to define your business idea. Your business idea still has to be the same about saying, what problem am I trying to solve? The world has this problem. What am I trying to solve? What's going to be an entry barrier for competition? What am I going to do that is different? So those basics don't change, right? But yeah, what's changed is your ability to now look at what is available as AI and the ability to take that and to try and make your business start to grow faster, whether it's customer acquisition, look at better bottom line, whether it's your profit before
Profitability.
tax, etc., profitability, start to look at NPS, which is your customer satisfaction. So all of those parameters can be now so much better because of technology. And AI is just one part of it. AI is not the only technology out there. There is technology in general is now going to see technology. My pitch today when I walk into a bank or when I walk into, let's say, a auto company, or when I walk into XYZ government, my pitch is, I'm not your technology partner only. I'm your business partner. Because I am coming here to try and see how can you take customer acquisition up by 5x. I am trying to come in here and see how can you move NPS by 30 percentage points. I'm coming in to try and see, can we make sure that your bottom line improves by 10%. That's your business partner. That's not your technology partner. So your ability to use technology to better all of these matrices on the business side is really what's changing.
Got it. So let's say two students here have an idea. They want to build a dating app. Okay. And they understand that dating in the future and the matchmaking, etc., will not be as simple or as basic as it used to be with Tinder and Bumble. There will be some AI component to it. There will be some automation to it. There will be some smarter solutions to finding potential partners, right? So now, how do they start thinking about building that dating app? And what tools how should they think about leveraging AI to build that dating app essentially?
I've never thought about it, so I'm going to think on the fly along with you.
Perfect. Yeah, let's do it. Anyone has that idea? I know there's someone in PGB working on this.
Dating app. All right. Let's see. So, end of the day, so you have to start with what is your end goal, right? End goal is what? You have to find somebody who's really compatible with you. Who understands you, who's compatible with you, who's going to have the ability, when you spend time with them, they make you laugh, they make you happy, they make you joyous, they help you fulfill your thought process around your profession, etc., etc. And everybody must have a wish list, right? So that's the end goal. So let's start with that end goal in mind then.
Right. So the first screen essentially is, what is your end goal?
Is what your end goal is. What am I looking for? What am I looking for? Am I looking for looks? And it also depends on what age bracket you're in, right? Kavita's not in the room anymore. If I had to date, so my wife is here as well.
Where'd she go?
She had a call.
Phone, okay.
She had a call. So Pratham invited her as well. So I think you have to start with that end goal. And once you've got, so next, what do? You start to fine tune and try to put those personas into a model. Right?
How would we go about that?
You would essentially say, if this is the persona, then if this is what a person's record looks like, you would need data. See, end of the day, how does a model work? You train the model.
So you'll have to feed the model with
with data.
With previous marriages that have been successful
And these are all ideas, marriages that have been successful,
and unsuccessful.
Yes, and again, where do you get that data from? Not too many people put their personal life out there to be read in newspaper. Maybe film stars do, but not too many other people
That
do.
data is going to be tough to get.
It is. So you have to figure out. Then comes the concept of synthetic data. So if you find data for, let's say, 10 people, you can actually do synthetic data. You can generate synthetic data.
What is that? Just talk a little bit more about
Synthetic data. Matlab, it's the model generates data.
Got it. Which is
Almost
like,
artificial,
yeah.
synthetic or artificial data, but it is based on what are your, because it allows it to train. So yeah, you have to first of all figure out the end goal. Then you have to start saying, okay, where is the data? What do I do? Where do I get the data? I have to train my model, and these models and these personas are going to keep changing.
So sorry, how do you go about building that first model? So let's say I have the data. I have a data of 100,000 couples that have been super successful. Right? And I have that in an Excel, right? Let's say. Now, what is my next step? You said train your model.
Yes.
What does that mean?
That means that data needs to be given to the model.
And what is a model?
Okay, so the way this works is a model has already been pre-trained. Okay, so it comes with one set of training, and it depends on what that training is.
Let's say a Gemini
To
2.0.
give you, so now even within that, there would be a base model which is trained. What has happened on that model is that Google has gone, let's say, 2 data sets that we are allowed to use. Customers may have told us we can use them, or we may have data partnerships with somebody, like we have a data partnership with Mayo Clinic. Right? So we've built a model called MedPalm. MedPalm essentially is trained with 1.3 trillion data sets. Right? So let me take a step further to actually answer the question, but I thought most people understand tech here, so I think this probably be basic stuff. But how do you train a model? You take an image of a dog, right? And you show it to the model, and you say, this is a dog.
Dog, yeah.
And then if you show it the image 10 times, okay, if you show the image of a cat, chances are the model is going to say this is a dog.
Correct, because it's only trained on very small data.
But then when you start showing it that image 1 million times, if you show the image of a cat, high probability the model is going to say this is not a dog. Then you start showing the images of a cat, right? So MedPalm has been trained with 1.3 trillion medical data sets. Okay, so now that is a medical model. Now that's your base model.
So they took that data and uploaded it essentially to an existing, Gemini 2.0 or something.
See, again, layman language, think of a model as a bank. Okay, a bank gives basic services, right? ATM. A teller will be there in the branch. You'll have mobile banking, X, Y, Z. A model is essentially that. A model is going to give you speech to text, text to speech, voice recognition, multimodal
And I can
input.
get access to these models through a Google Cloud, essentially.
Wherever,
So
they're available. Llama is available offline. You can take that from Meta.
But those are LLMs, right? And those are not specifically built for dating or for
They're
medicine.
not. So you may find, so you could have 2 categories. I mean, dating is a really special use case.
Correct.
But if it's security, we've got SecPalm, we've got MedPalm. So there are industry-based models that
Which
are
have already been trained on
which
that
have
data.
already been trained on that data. Then what? So what happened with MedPalm? I'm continuing with that because I want to try and land the example. On MedPalm, then Apollo Hospital, Apollo 24/7, they came in, and they took MedPalm, and then they used their own data sets to further train it. Now that would include Indian data sets.
Fine-tuning it essentially.
Basically fine-tuning it, but putting Indian data sets onto it, which meant that they built out what we now call a clinical intelligence engine. Okay, now what is the CIE? The CIE is that you have doctors who are sitting in remote areas, right, who are doing patient diagnostics. The CIE is like a second opinion talking to the doctor. That if this patient has these symptoms and this is what it's showing and this is what it is, then the data sets show that
This is the
it
diagnosis.
should be,
Tuberculosis.
well, God forbid, but yeah, it should be some kind of viral. And that is basically now trained with Indian data sets, right? The Indian genes will be different from the Caucasian genes that you may find in the US, will be different from the African genes, will be different from the, the Asian genes, which is the Oriental genes. So that's how you train a model. So there is a base model, then there is an industry-based model, and then on top of that you come in with your own data sets and you train it. So for a dating, I'm not aware of a dating model that may be there
Doesn't
already.
exist, yeah.
So
Opportunity.
You could pick a base model and then you start to train.
So pick a base model like Llama.
Yes, and you could
or
start
one
to
of the
train it.
palms.
Gemini is a great model. I don't know
Gemini
if
is a
you've
great
tried.
model. And then train it on maybe a trillion data sets around dating will be tough to get.
See, and again, a lot of people tend to think of model accuracy as the ultimate.
That doesn't matter.
Okay. In reality, it's price performance.
It's price
Performance.
Price performance. Okay. For that price, what is the
For
performance?
that performance, what is the price? Ulta. Right? I was talking to a car manufacturer and we're thinking of an AI-based braking system. It's coming up like $1,000 $1,000 a car, a pop.
Okay.
Now in
To
countries
train
like
that.
to build that AI-based braking system. Now in countries like India, where I have 20, 30, 50, 100 million cars, it's going to cost like a lot of money to do a braking system. Nobody's going to afford that, right? So then we came in with Gemini and we started to talk to them and we said, okay, see, here's what happens. How do you define a price? A price is going to be a function of 3 layers. Okay, the first layer is going to be hardware, GPUs, right? Everybody's heard of NVIDIA. Anybody has bought stock of NVIDIA? Smart people. Okay. NVIDIA sells GPUs. Those sell like gold. That's the price of the waiting. There was a video, you may have seen it. Larry Ellison was talking, Oracle, the founder of Oracle, he was talking and he said him and Elon Musk had lunch with Jensen. And he said the whole lunch was me begging, both of us begging Jensen to take our money and give us more GPUs. And that is reality. GPUs are scarce. They're not available. So hardware. Then you have software on top of it, which could be Vertex for Google. It could be OpenAI, ChatGPT, whatever. And then the third layer of the cake is typically first-party services. Okay, so you would think of speech to text, text to speech, multimodal, translation, etc., etc. So that would be the
interface.
So that's the three. Those are the 3 layers of the cake. Okay. Now, what is happening out there is people are buying hardware, marking it up. Then they are buying software, marking it up, right? And then they're putting third-party services and they're trying to sell it.
Right.
If you look at some of the competition to us, that's what they do. And I don't want to be naming people, but that's really what it is.
The wrapping, essentially, the wrappers.
Right? With Google, what tends to happen is we have GPUs, but we also have what we call TPUs, tensor processing units. Anybody heard of TPUs here? Right? Google has TPUs. They're the equivalent of GPUs. Those are ours. All our AI runs on our TPUs.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Okay. Then you have Vertex, which is ours, and then we give you the ability to do Gemini, Anthropic, Palm, Llama, etc. So the software layer is ours, and then the first-party services are ours. So that gives us the ability to hit price performance way better. So the reason I'm calling this out is, and the reason I'm talking about this is that as models exist, a lot of people tend to think of performance as the benchmark. But in reality, when you're getting, and maybe in the consumer space, it's great to have good, write me a poem and sing me a song. But when you're getting to businesses, when you're getting to banks, when you're getting to auto manufacturers, it is about price performance. It's about the fact that what model is going to give me the right return on investment. There's a question there.
What we see is that our curriculum gets outdated every year. We see new things coming, and we are not able to keep up with what to learn and where to learn from in this day and age of AI. And we have content lying in my laptop, 100 tabs are open that I have to read, but I don't know which one to read and where to build. So how do we at this age select, how to learn and be ahead of this curve and suit it to our niche or what I am building?
I'm in the same boat as you, right? Every month, there's something there that I don't know. And I'm kind of trying to figure this out because between my priorities of trying to run a business, trying to run a large team, trying to do X, Y, Z, and I just don't sell AI for a living. I also sell data, analytics, I sell security, I sell a lot of other things, right? At Google, we do a lot of other things as well, maps, etc., etc. I'm struggling with the same situation. So I don't think there is a quick fix here right now. because things are coming at a huge velocity, but this shouldn't be new. This has happened to us over the last so many years. With the advent of the internet, it is actually the same situation. Where things are evolving so fast, information is coming at you at such rapid pace that it is difficult to keep abreast. My only guidance to you would be that whatever you pick, just keep going deeper and deeper into that, because the age of generalization is perhaps getting over very quickly. Right? This is the age of specialization. This is the age of not being a jack of all trades, but a master of one or two. So whatever you pick, keep yourself abreast. Use AI to learn. AI should be summarizing stuff for you at the end of the day. Set up the system such that, oh, I don't know, all tech information across AI gets summarized. You get a 30-minute capsule in the evening that you could just listen to. Have you folks tried Notebook LM? Has anybody tried it?
I think that's the most popular
Right?
use case so far.
It's phenomenal. And that's Gemini, for the way.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I'm going to make sure he moves to Gemini. So Notebook LM is a great way to do it. Right? Just put in the document, and then while you're driving, while you're reading, while you're jogging, while you're exercising, whatever you're doing, just get updated on what's happening. It's not easy. It's not easy.
But one part of his question, it's very interesting that in a month, what I was thinking as a great idea essentially is not great anymore because it's already been done. And so how do you stay ahead of that curve, right? Like reading and listening about it is one thing, but I think just fundamentally we have to change the way we think, our mental models.
I think so. Look, everything is going to change. You and me have been talking about this. How they learn is going to change, right? I think the one thing that's going to be constant now onwards, or at least for the last few years since I've been in the digital world, I spent some time at Amazon starting 2012. So since then, when this whole cloud and this AI and everything came to front and center, the one thing that we all have to be very comfortable with is ambiguity and our ability to deal with it. That is one thing that is not changing. The better we get at dealing with ambiguity, the easier our lives are going to be. So before I came to Amazon, I didn't understand that concept really well. I had worked for the traditional tech companies without, and they're all great companies, IBM, Oracle, I mean, they're big names, right? Lockheed Martin. I'd worked for all the tech companies in the world before, and there was a very structured approach to how things were done. And then I went to Amazon and I realized that, oh, wow, this is another way of doing things. It's not that they're disorganized. Their ability to deal with ambiguity is way higher. And I see the same at the new age companies. So I think the one thing that we should be very, very clear about is that the one big skill set you should all develop and carry is the ability to deal with ambiguity. And then when that monthly change happens, your ability to adapt and your ability to change would be much smoother.
Correct, because the world going to change its pace. You just have to get better at dealing with it.
Yeah.
Not going to get step 1, step 2, step 3 instructions and syllabus anymore.
I agree with you.
To
when I think about this, there are times when I say I wish I was as young as all of you, and there are times when I say thank God I'm not.
I'm going to open it up to questions from the audience. All right, go ahead. You start, yeah.
We just discussed about the dating app, building the dating app. And, I was just wondering, like, using these agentic frameworks, what do you think about using it in the dating app? Because
Obviously, will be something which is going to be critical to a part of, because you're going to have to see anything that requires interface. Agentic frameworks are going to change the way you operate, and this will need there are so many things you could do with it. Again, I've never sat down and thought about a dating app, so I'm a little raw at giving you deep dive on
the most important use case. At the end of the human self-actualization is about finding a partner.
It depends on what stage of life you're in, the life cycle, product life cycle. But to your question, I believe so, yes. I think all aspects of interface are going to need agentic frameworks.
I would love to hear your thoughts on the ESG implication of AI.
Ooh, wow. That is a deep question.
Because we've been talking about it, we've been hearing a lot about it, and it would be great to hear first-hand thoughts from you.
Look, the amount of power that we need to run AI data centers is 10x or maybe even 20x. I mean, I don't have the exact numbers with me right now, but think of it. The
Order of
multiple is
magnitude.
huge. And what this means is that companies are going to need to make sure that that power is clean. It's green and it's clean. At Google, we've committed to that. We had committed to the fact that our cloud business is already with a zero footprint, right? We've committed to 2030 to do that with all of Google. And I think that is only getting accelerated because with AI coming in and the amount of power, we recently announced, some deals we've done with Adani and with, Kleenex, etc., here in India. But that is now top and center of most of the tech companies, where we are saying, how do we look for clean energy, clean fuel? Amazon did some sign-ups, I think nuclear energy, or Microsoft, one of them, I don't remember which one. But this aspect is top and center because most tech companies realize that if you're going to get into fossil fuels and the traditional sources of energy, it's going to be very expensive, but more importantly, it's not so cool. You're going to end up destroying a large part of the ecosystem we stay in. So it is top and center with almost every tech company now.
And just to follow up on that, so when we prompt, they say that we're consuming X amount of water, and that like news like this hinders us from using or exploiting AI for our benefit. Like there's also a lot of baggage with using AI because you're consuming resources without knowing the implications of doing that amount of
See, I'll
research or
tell you,
making AI do the most.
most times now, if it's AI, energy is pretty clean because it's recent. See, a couple of years ago, most of the tech companies, data centers started to look to get into the clean energy space. So anything that we're building now, and most times AI is being built now, right? Data centers are being put into play now. Those are coming with clean energy. So, I mean, again, there could be exceptions, etc. So, I'm not aware of those. But in general, you'll find, cloud providers, etc., data center providers, for all the new stuff that's being built, energy sources are being looked at pretty seriously, especially global companies. Now, there could be smaller, providers who are not doing that. I think it's only a matter of time. The government is coming up with some very significant, stringent norms along this space. So it's only a matter of time. Everybody will have to comply. But it's coming if it's not already there.
You can be guilt-free. Go ahead. You can give it to the person in the back. Yeah, right there.
Hello, sir. Thank you so much for being here. I wanted to follow up on the last point that you made about your biggest advice to us being the ability to deal with ambiguity. So, given the fact that many of us are students and many of us are in our youth, do you have any perhaps practical advice on how to increase our adaptability, on how to assess ambiguity with a clear thought process? And perhaps do you have any examples from your life and working for Google in which you can present to us?
So that's deep. Okay, so first let's talk about dealing with ambiguity, and then we can talk about, my examples in life. Look, dealing with ambiguity needs a mental reset. You have to believe that, your ability to deal with something is on the back. Now, you don't have to believe it. It's actually on the back of knowledge that you carry, right? So the first thing that really is important is to make sure that your knowledge, your depth of knowledge on things is extremely high, right? So when I went to work for Amazon, they come with these 14 leadership principles. Has anybody heard of the 14 leadership principles of Amazon? Has anybody read about them? No? Okay. So this is what defines you for being at Amazon. And those 14 leadership principles are along the lines of deep dive. That's one leadership principle. That means if you're at Amazon, your ability to dive deep into data. The other one there will be write a lot. Amazon expects that its leaders, when they take decisions, most of those decisions should be the right decisions, right? there would be a leadership principle which would be about the fact that you have to move quickly. Bias to action is what they call it. What that really means is that your ability to take a decision based on, let's say you have 70% of the data points. Okay, you could wait for the 100%, but then you don't need a human. A computer can take that decision. Your ability to take a decision based on the 70% and move forward. Now, these start to come. Customer obsessed is another one of it. Earn trust was another one of it. So there are certain leadership principles that they ingrain into you as you work for that company. And every company has its own. Google has its own. Google talks about respect the user, respect the opportunity, respect each other. Right? So as you go through the culture of that company and as you get ingrained into that company, what you start to do is and these things pull at each other. Now think about it. Dive deep is going to be at odds with bias for action. Right? At one point you're telling somebody go deep into stuff, and then you're also telling them if you have 70% of the data points, move. Jeff Bezos says that. He says that, if you have a 10% odd of getting a 100x return, take a swing.
Say that again.
If you have a 10% odd of getting a 100x return,
Got it.
take a swing.
Take the chance.
Right? And then they layer it with saying, we expect you to be right a lot. So you have two principles pulling at each other, and then you're right a lot. And that's what defines a leader. That's what defines an Amazonian leader. And again, Google would have its own set of. So I think when you work for such organizations, right, and when you ingrain those cultures, you start to develop the ability to have the ability to deal with ambiguity. Right? So that's one part of my learning, that as I went through my journey in life, as I worked for these great companies with great cultures, and it wasn't just there. I also went to work for a startup. I spent 2 years in a startup called Grofers. I see a lot of people who are not from India here. Grofers is our hyperlocal. It's now called Blinkit.
It's the noon of India. They've
The
been in
noon
Dubai,
of
so
it. Okay, the noon of India, 10-minute deliveries. Right? What I learned there added to my aspect around dealing with ambiguity. Right? Funny anecdote. The first day I walked into office, young startup, right? The first day I walked into office, and I was coming from Amazon, and I was coming from IBM, and I was coming from Oracle, right? Those are the kind of companies I'd worked for. And I walked in, and first of all, I looked around, where do I sit? And then I looked at the chair, and that chair had dirty black marks on it. And I remember making the call back home and saying, I can't do this. I'm a VP walking out of XYZ company, and there's a dirty chair here to sit. But you know what? The culture there, and of course I found myself a clean chair. But more than that, the learnings there and the culture there that I saw, that added on to my ability to deal with ambiguity. So it's not a switch that you can turn on and off. It's going to come with life experiences. It's going to come with your ability to manage certain situations and then learn from there. But I think the one constant there is knowledge. Because when you have the depth of knowledge, your ability to deal with ambiguity or deal with ambiguous stuff gets way better. The learnings will come around that, but your depth of knowledge and your understanding of a subject, there is no replacement for that. Andy Jassy used to say this. I used to work for him. I spent a year at his strategy office. I spent a year working with him and his teams. And he used to say this. He said, it basically said there is no algorithm that allows you to compress experience. Right? That experience of life will teach you what it will teach you. What you can do for yourself is make sure that you're enabled by being deep in what you understand.
This concept of depth is also a little bit abstract, right? And for the audience, can you also give me an example of what is depth and what is not depth?
Ooh.
Right? In context of anything.
That is deep as a question.
But does that make sense? You see what I'm trying to get at?
Look, what is deep and what is not deep? I think, in my personal opinion, I think what is deep is really going to be your ability to be able to derive some value out of what you know. Again, I'm thinking on the fly as you're
that's
asking
fine.
me these questions on the fly.
Absolutely.
In my opinion, I think depth is directly proportional, or value that you derive from information you know is directly proportional to the depth of information you know.
Driving value.
Right? So the deeper you know something, the better value you could derive out of it. And that could be anything. It goes back to my original point of saying get deep on stuff, specialize. The one or two things that you know them really well, because then your ability to derive value out of that is going to be disproportionately large than a jack of all trades. Right? So that is my deep answer to your deep question around depth.
Like, so really understand dating, understand everything, all the
You're fixated on this dating app thing. What's happening?
just
I would have thought we should have got to credit and financial inclusion and agriculture.
we have
We're
time.
only going to talk about dating all the time.
I was trying to hold an anchor, but no, we have time for all of that.
Is
But
it
do you
okay
wanna-
if I follow up?
ahead.
Yeah. You mentioned that there's no algorithm for compressing life experience. And given that you said that depth is what you would recommend for the antidote to ambiguity, or the way to deal with ambiguity, say you're 20, 22 years old and you are starting your own company, or a startup founder. Now, how can you go about, you're going to fail a lot, but how can you keep yourself on the right path? If you were to give us like a set of principles, a set of company values to keep us guided, even though, of course, we're going to misstep, what would those advices
First
be?
of all, my advice to you would be enjoy those missteps. So I went to work for a startup, and I used to work with young founders. And I used to see them making the missteps because I obviously came with more experience. I used to see them making the missteps. But the biggest disfavor I could do them was to discourage them from doing what they were thinking of doing. Because if it hasn't worked in the past, doesn't mean it's not going to work in the future. Times change, things change, strategies evolve, right? So the first big advice I'm going to give you is enjoy the failure. As long as you learn from it. If you're going to keep making the same mistake over and over again, then no. Then that's not the right thing to do. But if you're able to enjoy and learn from your failures, that is the best part of your journey. And I've done that a lot in my life, right? I have failed at stuff. I have tried stuff. And I've actually had times where I haven't been brave enough to follow through on that failure. And then I've understood that somebody else actually did that and is way successful than where I am, perhaps in terms of what I did with that idea. Right? So enjoy your failure. Secondly, don't have the pressure of wanting to deal with ambiguity at age 22 or 20. That is a part of getting to deal with ambiguity. Life will take you through its learnings. Life is like water. It will meander through. It will take you through different parts of the journey. Learn from those journeys. The ability to deal with ambiguity will keep coming at every step of that meander. Right? So don't put that pressure on yourself that you need to be perfect on day one, you need to deal with ambiguity. There are times when you don't deal with ambiguity well and you fail and you make a mistake. It's okay. It's life. As long as it doesn't cost somebody else their life or your life, the rest of it, all recoverable. Everything is recoverable. Right? We think at that point in time, this is the end of the world and oh my God, this couldn't have been a worse decision. I've been through situations where I've, without naming companies, where I've I was younger, I was a hothead, and I've got into situations with my manager where I essentially said, I don't agree with your way of working, and you know what, I don't want to work for you anymore. Right? That was not a very good way to deal with ambiguity. That wasn't. I mean, at that point in time, one thinks that you've taken a decision which is satisfied your ego, etc., etc. But no, it's not a very good way to. Now, when I look back in life and I say, it hardly mattered. We could have found a solution. It could have been better. I could have still not wanted to work for that manager. I could have still have done something else and whatever it is. So don't put that pressure on yourself. to try and learn how to deal with ambiguity, it will come to you itself. Hopefully, much earlier than it came to me.
Thank you so much.
You want to pass it back?
Yes, sir. My name is Ismail. Thank you so much for taking the time to come here. I wanted to ask you a question. You've mentioned that to succeed for this generation, us as the youth in the future, we should have a lot of knowledge and depth, and I agree with that. A lot of industry-specific knowledge, like in tech or AI or whatever it may be. But I have a question. What do you think would be the most important soft skills for someone to succeed from my generation in for the future in a company like Google, for example?
Very good question. Because a lot of us tend to ignore that whole concept of soft skills. And you're not from India. I assume you're from some other part of the world.
I'm from Jordan, but I grew up in
You're
Dubai.
from Jordan, right? For those people who are from India, soft skills, and I don't know how it is in Jordan, but when I look at the Americas, because I've spent some time there, I've traveled to the Europe, Americas, etc. When I look at the Western countries, what I find is that their ability to develop soft skills is way ahead of what we do in India. So I'm giving this advice to the kids who come out of India. There, your job role could be you're a janitor, but you're put on stage, they will still speak very confidently, right? That comes as a part of growing up, as a part of their economies, as a part of their culture, their ability. And of course, there is always a percentage that may not do that may not be confident, but largely you will find a set of, the confidence, your soft skills, your ability to
Expression.
interact, your gravitas, your ability to express yourself is significantly ahead of what we do here with in India. And that's perhaps a function of our culture, the way we are in terms of, we are taught how to, perhaps, be a certain way when you live within family cultures, etc. And there are different reasons for it, right? But to answer your question, I think soft skill is, if your tech depth or your business depth or your knowledge depth is 50% of the journey, your soft skills is the rest of the 50% of that journey. Your ability to express yourself is so important, right? So yes, I think there is in fact a huge opportunity there in terms of helping in countries like India, or you go to Bangladesh, or you go to maybe other countries like us, where perhaps we don't have the same level of soft skills and gravitas and expressibility as other countries do. I think there is actually a huge amount of headroom there to exploit that as an opportunity. Exploit is the wrong word, but to leverage that as an opportunity.
You've mentioned confidence. Can you name a few other maybe?
Confidence in terms of, sorry, I mentioned confidence as
You
our
mentioned-
ability to,
That's an example of soft skills.
Yeah.
your expressibility, just your ability to express yourself. There are times on stage, like he gave me the deep question. I haven't thought about a dating app. I haven't thought about a deep question. I think half of my answer was my ability to be able to express myself more clearly. Honesty in expression is also a very big, and I'm not saying I'm the best at this, but I started by saying I don't understand what you've told me, but let me have a pass at it, let me have a go at it. Right? So your ability to express yourself, your confidence at expressing yourself, your gravitas. I have seen the senior most people, CEOs of banks, large multinationals, etc., struggle on public speaking. Right? And it's not that they're not exposed, it's not that they don't have the opportunity, it's just the gravitas doesn't exist. They will fumble on stage, they'll stammer on stage, they will be nervous in that meeting. When you do a press recording or a video or a TV recording, oh my god, the number of retakes. I was once on a panel with somebody, it was like everything was a retake, and I was sitting there holding my head saying, this man runs a bank. Yeah, so I just feel there's a number of things out there.
Go ahead.
Hi, sir. It's a pleasure to have you here. My name is Veer Mehta and I'm from Gujarat. So I'm going to cite an example and then ask a question. So currently I'm interning at Motilal Oswal, and over there we have...
The NBFC.
Yes, the NBFC. So over there we have human traders and we have algorithmic traders. All right. So algorithmic trading is something which has been there for a comparatively longer time, right? So I always had the question about why is it that human traders are not fully replaced by algorithmic trading, because these guys, they charge a lot of commission, they take away huge sums of money. So I personally did a research and I wanted to develop something around it. So in trading, you have to use a set of rules. But when I back tested it, it was worse than the human traders because of the intuitive aspect. So as you know, 4th June, because the ruling party was not able to secure enough seats, the Indian stock market has had the worst fall after COVID-19. And that was a moment which all the algorithms which they had back tested had predicted that it would go up. However, the traders, because of some sort of intuition, it was not based on any metric, fundamental or technical, purely on intuition, they decided not to take any trades on that particular day, 4th June. So, how to incorporate that intuitive aspect into AI? Like, how to, that's my question.
How many people here are doing similar projects? Algo trading? Algo trading? How many people algo trading?
I
Okay.
tried and then I just figured out that it's just not my thing.
Okay, so let me take you down a little bit of a history lesson. So algo trading was Jim Simpson. Everybody heard of Jim Simpson? If you're in this business, you better hear of him. Right? He's the guy who solved the market. You read the book?
Yeah, how to beat the market.
How the man who solved the market.
Yeah.
Right? And if you look at algo trading, and again, I'm not an expert on algo trading, but I'm going to give it my best shot. See, I'm starting with expressing myself well. Algo trading, it depends on, so if you look at what Jim Simpson used to do, initially a large part of his career was trading in commodities. Commodities are easier to predict, right? And those were days when compute, storage, analytics was not as sharp. AI wasn't there. Models were there, but you didn't really have AI, right? And the way they would work is that they would take the price point of rice, for example, at 9 a.m. in the morning and 5 in the evening. And then they would take that price point of rice over the last 30 years and they would correlate it to all the events, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. And you would correlate it to events that happened where you would see a basic anomaly of data where the price of rice suddenly fell. They would correlate it to what were the events that happened that day in the world, which could potentially impact the price of rice, right? And then they would look at those patterns over and over again. And when it fell, in how many days did it come up, right? And when it came up, what happened, what caused it? And then they would look at data over and over and over again, and they would try to create a model which said that the next time this happens, the price of rice is going to fall. Wait, when it falls, trade. Right? And from there develop the concept of high frequency trading, which says you go in and trade, you get out very quickly. Right? So that was what happened, and that was how this whole piece was developed. Now, the minute they moved to equities, those models started to break because equities are perhaps not as predictable, right? Commodities are. And then you start to use data sets, and then you start to train your models again and again. Now, what changed from then to now? What has changed from then to now is compute is much more powerful, storage is much bigger, right? So instead of taking data at 9 in the morning and 5 in the evening, you can take data at 9, 9:01, 9:02, 9:03, 9:04, 9:05, right? Hypothetically, not that maybe price will change, I don't know. But you can take those data sets. Now, once those data sets are there with you, your ability to start, putting analysis on it, you start to analyze it, gets much better because the data sets are much sharper. So hence you can get much better knowledge. Now come to your point of intuitiveness of traders, right? We are talking about AGI. Everybody heard of AGI? Right? You're now talking about a world of AGI where the model or AI will be sharp enough to understand AGI. Is that coming? Yes, it is. Having said that, there are still people who've developed markets. But I would say largely, I haven't seen too many models that are just left alone on their, left on their own. That there is an element of human in the loop that will always exist, and your ability to eject or to get out of it or to come in, that option most times exists. So I'm seeing a mix which is successful, and this is not just in trading. This is in any POC, anything that we are doing around AI. What we are seeing is that you're getting better results with human in the loop. Okay, that element is, so till you get to complete AGI and you get to that nirvana and that world, perhaps human in the loop is going to exist for a lot of things. Even like, for example, when we talk of call centers, customer support desks, when you're getting calls in, okay, to assume that a model is going, see, you can chat. So chat a model can do. But if you're talking about voice, I think if you're a travel agency, right, somebody is calling in trying to complain and the model is trying to upsell a ticket to them. What is the result of that going to be? Not very good, right? But yeah, when somebody is calling in to complain, if the model captured the sentiment and came in with multilingual, because that person is calling in Tamil and having that conversation in Tamil. So the model captures the sentiment Tamil. By the time the call hits the agent is already aware, sentiment is read. This customer is extremely unhappy. They're speaking in Tamil. This is their problem. And the agent is first going to try and solve the problem and then going to move on to trying to see if there is some upsell that can be done. So the human in the loop is only helping enhance the whole productivity aspect. So to answer your question, I think at this point in time, the human in the loop aspect is important. Right now, what happened that point in time, that day trading, etc., I wouldn't know, but that's typically where it is. But I think with AI, more and more and more of your ability. So, for example, we spoke about training data sets, right? That would be a huge bump up with AI there. Your ability to train it would get much better. So, hence, you would get much sharper. Yeah.
And when you say AGI, are we expecting that AGI to also have that emotional intelligence, to also have that intuitiveness that he spoke about?
I don't know. That's a tough one to do. It depends on where AGI. I mean, everybody talks of AGI. I don't know. Honest answer. I mean, if I had a crystal ball, I still wouldn't know.
No, but is that the definition of AGI?
It's supposed to be the same as you and me.
It has to be.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Similarly intelligent, or also similarly intuitive and emotional.
Everything.
Everything.
That's what AGI is. Who knows where it's going to head? I don't think any of us knows.
Everyone seen that movie, The Ex Machina? If you haven't, then you have to watch it. Gives you a good sense of what AGI really is. Have you seen the movie?
I haven't. I see it every day in my life.
All right, go ahead.
Sir, can you please tell us more about the Google quantum chip Willow, and what do you think is the future of quantum computing?
I don't know more. I don't know enough about it to actually talk about it. It's very recent. We've just launched it. What I can tell you is what you've read in the press. Honestly, it's a different part of Google, so I don't know much about it. But I can tell you this, that when you start to bring things together, that and AI and Gemini and everything, the world's going to be very different. I mean, when I saw the announcement as well, I was like, ooh, wow. But I don't know much about it. I can't really share much more than what you've read. 5 minutes to solve the problem that took decades in a mathematical scenario. Exactly what you read is what I know.
All right, over there.
But I also know Jensen made a statement, and then price of all the computing, companies, the quantum computing companies nosedive, because he said something like we're 20 years away and all of that. I was reading it in the press. He made some statement, and then all the the quantum computing companies, the stock went like this. I don't know how. Really, it just shows you how brittle the whole stock market is.
Yeah.
That whole ecosystem is. Yeah, somebody else had the mic in their hand.
Go ahead, sorry.
Hello, sir. My name is Jayashree. It's not a very conventional question. I'm actually in crossroads. Have you ever come across this quote which says that I want AI to do my laundry and dishes so that I can do art and writing and not the other way around? So there's one. It's been quite popular on the internet for the past 2 years. Well, what I want to talk about is that a lot of art and writing also depends on interpersonal human connection. In fact, all kinds of art depends on certain kind of expression, which is human interconnection. And when you were talking about the agents, when we were talking about AI and the fact that Gemini and ChatGPT, we can actually interact with them and we don't need friends around them. We can talk about our deepest emotions to an AI. How do you think this is going to turn out for a world in the coming decade? Will we need friends?
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know the answer to that question. Like I said, if I had a crystal ball that I could gaze through, I could perhaps give you answers. Look, what I can tell you is what we are seeing, right? And what we are seeing is that the world is changing. I mean, one could put the same logic on social media, right? One could argue that our social skills are declining because of all the time, by the way, I don't have social media on my phone. I don't, right? The only social media software or app I'm on is LinkedIn. That's it. And that is because, as a part of the community, I have to speak to the community, give announcements, etc. As a part of Google, I have to do that. Otherwise, I wouldn't be there as well, right? And it's a personal choice. Everybody has a personal choice to make of what they need to do, what they don't need to do. But coming back to your question, I think we could argue about what you just said with so many things that are happening around us. Social media is just one part of it, right? Would that happen with AI? Who knows? Who knows? Or maybe, I've heard of alternate scenarios where maybe in 20 years, we'll all be sitting at home, government pays us a stipend and says, you know what, relax, enjoy life, do your art, do your storytelling, and let the machine do everything else. Not just doing your dishes, but just about everything else in life is done by the machine, and you're paid a stipend by the government to stay at home and just relax and enjoy life. Well, that could be a scenario as well, right? So who knows how this is going to turn up? But what I believe is now happening is that uh, you've crossed the chasm, you've gone past, right? So I don't think there's any turning back here now. What one can only try and ensure is that it's used responsibly, right? And that's something that we're very particular at Google, that be bold but be responsible in how you use this.
Go ahead.
Hello, sir. I'm Rishi. Thank you for your time. My question is, as you spoke about Agent X and Y being very integral parts of our lives in the future. So, as Pratham sir already asked, let's say there is something even called as recruiting in the future. With an AI model knowing everything about us, there's going to be many processes like hiring that's going to be obsolete because they're just going to gain data from the AI model. So, in this kind of scenario, when we have two humans interacting where one needs to extract value from another person for a transaction, how do we protect the interests of both the parties? So let me take an example, an extreme example. Let's say I have a skill that you require a lot, but the downside is, God forbid, I have cancer, I'm going to pass away soon. This is a job I require it's a job I really require, and it's a skill that you really require. But the AI model says, no, this person is not a right fit for you because of this downside. How do we protect the interests of both the individuals in this kind of scenario? And how does it affect large scale stuff like elections and these kind of
See,
things?
first of all, we have to be very cognizant of the fact that large companies, and I can talk on behalf of Google because I work for that company, right? Protecting your privacy is going to be critical as a part of a company like Google, which is principle. There's of course principles that you carry. Like I said, we have our own AI principles, right? But more importantly, I think governments, regulators are coming in very, very strongly to ensure that that privacy is protected, right? Europe has its own set of laws. India just launched DPDP, which is our data protection, act that we've put into play. The government's just put it out there for the next, I think they put it out about 2 weeks ago, and they said 45 days we're going to look for, comments from the public, and then they'll start to put the regulations in play, right? So I don't believe that the scenario will be such that I'll be able to take information about you without you knowing, and then to leverage that information. That's not going to be. I mean, look, there are always bad apples. There are always bad actors, and bad people will continue to do bad things. That will continue to happen in the world. What we have to do is we have to be responsible in what we do. So I don't think there is a scenario where we are saying that you have to pass an interview and somebody gets your information without even you knowing it. Right? I personally don't believe that scenario will come, because the person who is interviewing you is going to be a business, right? And a business is going to use a business software to do this, and that business software is going to come with contractual terms
Compliances.
which will clearly say that this is not allowed. Like when you look at, for example, cloud providers, right? Any data that you put into the cloud, whether it's Amazon, whether it's Microsoft, whether it's Google, there are very stringent terms which make sure that your data is not shared with anybody else. Okay, so there will be terms and conditions that business softwares or business companies, etc., would be having to adhere to if they're going to use those softwares, right? To your question on missing out on an opportunity, look, I think frankly it's really up to the company to decide. I would call it a fringe use case, and it depends on how you train the model. But yeah, could there be fringe use cases like what you said? Yes, there could. Which is where I go back to my point of saying that human in the loop is perhaps producing better results right now. When you're looking at productivity, there are certain use cases where perhaps not, but a lot of use cases, human in the loop is actually giving you better results. It's about enhancing the productivity of the human more than replacing the human.
Thank you so much.
Just give it over there. Yeah.
Hello, sir. I'm Akshaj. So my question was, being an entrepreneur is often confused with, people only being founders or running a startup. But, as you said in your LinkedIn, that you have an entrepreneurial mindset, which led you to quit your job in Oracle and, set up AWS in India. So how important is being entrepreneurial in a corporate workspace or in a company, and how you can, contribute your part in the company by being an entrepreneur?
Thank you. That's a very good question. And for those of you who are not going to be setting up your own startup, my guidance is that entrepreneurial mindset is critical. It's critical. Whether you're doing a job or you're doing your own stuff, it doesn't matter. What is an entrepreneurial mindset? Let's understand that a little better first, right? And that mindset is basically to say that I am coming in thinking of this as my own, right? And that's really about ownership. Right? Think about the difference between staying in a rented apartment versus staying in your own house. That's the difference. Right? So if you think of this as I'm here in a rented apartment and I'm going to leave in the next 2 quarters or the next 2 years, your mindset is going to be very different from saying I'm here to make sure this business goes 10x from here. Right? I've been fortunate to have the ability to build 2 businesses in India that have been over $1 billion. Right, I've had that good fortune. I've worked with great people who allowed me to do that, work along with me. But it really gets down to the fact that the mindset that you have, the team that I had, and a lot of those people, who started working with me in different companies still work with me. We work together because of that mindset, because they come with that mindset saying we have to go 10x from here. Right? And hence, and that ownership aspect, 10x is just one part of the ownership aspect. There are so many other aspects of 10x, making sure that the culture is right, making sure that the people who are working there are the right set of people, putting that passion into hiring people to make sure that the right people come and work for us, right? And that doesn't mean you want to hire clones of yourself. What that means is that you want to hire additive to yourself, right? If I know X, I want to hire somebody who understands X plus better, right? And there are so many aspects that go into this entrepreneurial mindset. This is a very long discussion we could have separately, but I believe that as you head out there into the corporate world or doing your own stuff, either ways, having that mindset is critical, right? That's one of the mantras for success for me, because when I hire, I look for that. I said, how many people, will this person, come in and treat this like their own? Or are they going to treat this like I'm here for 3 quarters or 3 years or 4 years and then, I'm looking to move and go here and go there. Fair enough, that, you will have a certain section of people who will be like that, but that's okay. Hiring is one part of the job. Growth is another part of the job. As you develop people, as you grow them, I've had people who worked with me now for the last maybe 20 years. They've been working along with me in maybe 3, 4, 5 companies and maybe we skipped a company in the middle where we didn't work together, but we worked together for a very long time. I've known them since they were like sales reps or front end, customer engineers. And they're now senior leaders in my team who work along with me. And the only reason we continue to work together is because they come with that entrepreneurial mindset. They come with that mindset that says that we are going to build something which hasn't been built before.
How do you judge that in an interview? Whether someone comes with that mindset or not?
Tough. Tough, but not impossible.
Intuition?
Well, different companies do it differently.
How do you do it?
It depends on, I have a certain, so I have a checklist, that I look for. And I'm not going to reveal that checklist here.
I was like, fine.
But I have a checklist there, and that checklist consists of things like, for example, dealing with ambiguity is one part of it, right? Then it is about your ability to think strategically, yes. But you know what? I find a lot of people can talk big and think strategically. There's a lot of big talk that happens. But your ability to execute it on the ground, your tactical capabilities, to be operationally tight, that's a skill set, and that is rare to find when you. So talk big, you'll get lots of people. A lot of people will tell you great ideas. Think big. We can do this for you. Your ability to actually tactically make it work, and have the doggedness and the grit to be able to hang in there and make it work. I think that's a big quality. Your ability to take objective decisions, or take decisions objectively, not objective decisions. Your ability to take decisions objectively. That's another thing that you look for, because people follow leaders who are not biased. My relationship with you, like I said, people have worked with me for 20 years now across companies, but my decision making will never be biased with that. Because if the day that starts to happen, the ones who haven't worked with me for 20 years will feel I'm a biased leader. I will not inspire them, and they will not work for me. Right? So you look for these small nuggets when you start to, and it depends on the job role you're looking for. When I hire a leader, the bar is significantly different from when I hire an individual contributor or somebody who's just coming into the workforce. Some of these ingredients can be taught to people. Some can't. Integrity is not something you teach to people.
And have you thought whether it's you that's inspiring that ownership mindset in your team, and not that they carry with it themselves? Right? Is it also the duty of the leader almost?
Absolutely. I mean, this is not about me, so I won't say it's me who's inspiring them, but I'm just saying that it is the duty of the leader, right? I have tuned my mindset today, and over the years, I've tuned my mindset to say that when I get up in the morning, I will be solving the shittiest of problems. Because if they were easier to solve, the layer below me would solve them. What is going to come to me to solve is going to be the worst of the lot, right? And if you don't have an owner's mindset, you're going to consistently keep ducking. You're going to try and kick the can down the road versus trying to solve it. So having that mindset is so critical, and then inspiring the rest of the team with that mindset is even more critical.
How have your bosses inspired that mindset in you? Who's your boss, by the way?
You're recording me on camera, so what do you think my answer is going to be of how they've inspired? No, I work for the president of Asia Pacific. I work for him, or I'm a part of his team. I'm on his leadership team. Since I run the India South Asia business. But how am I? I think different people have different. The beauty is that you learn from almost everybody you work with. And it doesn't have to be your boss. I have learned so much from peers. I have learned so much from people who worked in my teams. I have learned from my managers, of course, right? So I don't think, learning is constrained to just your manager or inspiration for that matter. And I think both are different. Inspiration is perhaps a little different from learning. I think it's a question of, your own self, your adaptability, and your ability to pick off nuances and then learn from there and situations, right? There are times when I have been frustrated with situations, right? There are times when I mentioned an instance when I was hot-headed and I perhaps took some, impulsive decisions. For example, when I deal with my current leader, I think one of the things that I've really learned from him is that yeah, I mean his ability to just manage a situation is phenomenal, right? I haven't seen him get flustered with just about anything you throw at him. And imagine what comes to me is the worst. What goes to him is even
Probably
worse.
even worse, yeah.
Right? I've not seen him flustered with things. Right? So I think there's so much to learn from so many people out there.
So another thing to your list of soft skills is handling stress.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Hi, sir. My name is Vaibhav. So, my question is on impact and adaptability of AI on India 2 and India 3. Where I am relating to is the digital payments, because no one thought that 10 years back that we'll carry this as cash. So, for India 2 and India 3 and industries like agri-tech, construction, if someone is building, so what do you think is the impact of AI on those? Because 2/3 of the population is India 3. We have bifurcated in India 1, India 2 and India 3. So what are your thoughts on that?
What is India 1, 2, 3? Tell me that.
So urban population, rural population divide.
So what are my thoughts? Sorry, I'm still trying to just get my head around the question. What are my thoughts?
So industries like agriculture, construction, these kind of industries.
Look, I think the impact of technology is across the board. You pick an industry and I'll tell you what's happening there. Let's pick agriculture, right? India is building its agri stack with us. We are building India's agri stack as Google. And what that includes is the journey of the farmer from beej to market or seed to market. For those people who don't understand Hindi, we're talking about seed to market. Now, what is seed to market? Seed to market is you start with the fact that you can use technology, geospatial data. You're going to get images, right? So hence your ability to look at land, your ability to analyze soil, weather condition, flood forecasting, etc. You have the ability to tell a farmer in a much more concise way of what the crop is going to be, what are the best things to use on the crop, etc. More importantly, you now start to have the ability to predict crop yield. Now, why is that important? Once somebody told me this, they said the farmer is the biggest VC in this country. They take all their money and they put it on a small tract of land. And then they bet on it for the year and they get a harvest at the end of the year. Right? Farmers in this country, why do they commit suicide? They commit suicide because there is no financial inclusion. They have to go borrow money at 40% rate of interest, 50% rate of interest. Why? Because they don't have the ability to be able to put, loan against property. Loan. What do you put out there? Only thing you can put out there is your crop and your harvest. And your ability to predict yield is going to be so important to provide that financial inclusivity to the farmer, right? Now that's being built. Now, once you've got your yield, you've got your loans, we've launched, a beacon-enabled product. Anybody understands beacon frameworks here? Some people do, right? So that's, again, open source stuff. But we've launched, along with ONDC, we've launched a beacon-enabled, framework, which allows a small agent to embed into any app, which will then give you exposure to the entire ONDC framework. Right? So then that farmer doesn't have to go to different networks. They don't have to go to commerce, which is what we see ONDC as. Honest is education, etc., etc. The farmer, if they're on the HDFC app, for example, looking for a loan, they will also see where they can get their seed from, what is the best price of fertilizer, etc., etc. All the information that they need. So that is being now completed. From there, you're then saying, okay, now my yield is there. I need to get connected to the market, mandis. Right? How do you discover the MSP for that farmer for that particular crop? And if you don't want to sell at that price in the mandi, then can you go on to ONDC and sell on ONDC? Right? On open networks. How do you create demand there, or how do you create, how do you bring consumer users or buyers like Blinkit and Zepto and all of these folks, Big Basket? How do you bring them to start looking at that crop and to buy it? And from there integrating into applications which will provide more information. There is one called Access My India, right? They are basically providing a lot of information around citizen services. How do you integrate into that? So this is a full journey that is being created for the farmer, and all of this is tech backed. The farmer would have an app, the government would have an app, the central government would have a basically a scorecard that they would be monitoring and looking at to say, okay, what's happening across the country, etc., etc. You move into, credit, which is a huge need of this country. 80% of this country is unserved as far as credit is concerned, insurance is concerned. When you start looking at these markets, your ability to be able to understand a person's profile better because of data sets that are available, and hence be able to giving, when you go buy a phone on a one of the e-commerce sites, your ability to know whether the seller's ability to know whether they should be doing a no cost EMI or not is so dependent on data, right? So credit is another example, insurance. So you could go industry by industry. There is a lot of change happening, and the good part is that the government is pushing a lot of change. I mean, I've been a professional here for the last 30 plus years, and I can tell you with a lot of confidence that the intent of the government, the administrators, the way they are pushing forward for technology adoption and for change to come, it is way ahead of what we may have ever seen in this country or even other countries. So lots happening, lots coming.
All right, let's one and two. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. My name is Ramiro. So I've seen your LinkedIn, and it's truly impressive. I mean, how you graduated from engineering and now more than 3 companies, and at the end, the VP of Google is crazy. So what would you say are the qualities or the principles that allow you to become vice president? And just what are your advice for ourselves to escalate the corporate ladder?
You're asking me to talk about myself and praise myself and say I'm so good at this. Look, in all honesty, I think it starts at being fortunate, at being at the right place at the right time. Right? It starts from there. One could say I am this and I am that and I've done this and I've done that. But I think it starts by the fact that you're fortunate enough to be at the right place at the right time. It requires a lot of hard work. I'm never going to say, so hard work is critical to it, but being at the right place at the right time is even more critical. But let's get beyond good fortune and, good luck and God and all of those things. Let's get beyond that. I think the few things that you have to, and we've spoken about this during the conversation today, we spoke about ambiguity. That is critical for a leader. Objective decision making, that is critical. Walking the talk as a leader. People follow people. Money is incidental. Some people make change their careers, etc. for money. Frankly, my belief is money follows. I've rarely followed money in my career. I have a no regret framework that I've put out there for myself. Every time I'm looking for a change, the first part there is, am I going to learn more? That is my first criteria in the framework. The second criteria in the framework is, am I going to have fun? And the third criteria there is there wealth creation for me? Right? Those are the 3 filters I put every time I look at a new opportunity, whether that opportunity is in my professional career or as a, I may be doing something personally, etc. In terms of it has financial implications, etc. But I will always put 3 filters out there and say, am I learning new things? Am I going to have fun? Is there wealth creation involved? And if those ticks are better, or that grid is better than what I'm doing right now, I'll make the change. Right? So I think it's a function of everybody has their own journey, but certain principles or certain things which are table stakes are what we've spoken about during the conversation today. I'm trying to think of anything I may have missed as a part of the conversation. I don't think so. I think largely that's what it is. But yeah, people follow people, and I have followed people, and I have learned from people, and I have been inspired by people, yeah, I think it's I'm honored to be where I am. I am privileged to be where I am, and I thank everybody who's been in my journey. Whoever's been a part of my journey as I have taken this journey. I only have gratitude for them, including that one manager who I didn't agree with, and if that hadn't happened, a lot of what I have in my life wouldn't have happened.
Thank you so much for this entire conversation. I'm Rushal. And, I wanted to ask a question as per the experience that I recently had at one of the tractor factories that we'd visited called Sonalika. And I had a very peculiar thing that I picked up from the MD there. He said that when he had to expand to the European markets, Just for information, they are the biggest exporters of tractors from India. He talked about a very peculiar thing that when he wanted to expand, all the experienced seasonal people asked him that it's a very bad idea. Why would someone actually buy tractors which are Indian made in Europe? But for that particular problem, he hired some fresh MBA graduates, right, to actually solve that problem for him. And what I could infer from that, the major two reasons that I could see was first, experience, that they had a fresh perspective. And second, probably they were more adaptable because they are right out of college. So in this day and age, you talked about depth as well. What do you think versus the conversation of a generalist versus a specialist, seeing the rise of the entire emerging markets?
In these times, my vote will always go to a specialist because I think times have changed. A lot has changed from a few years ago when if you were a generalist, just look at, I was looking at some data that was coming out of around hiring of Harvard graduates, etc.
Yeah, that's been going viral.
It's not very encouraging. And I'm not going to comment on quality of education. Harvard's a great institution, etc. But whatever that reason is, I suspect specialists may not be having that challenge. If you're a specialist, and especially if you're looking at some of these new age fields, being a specialist, my vote would always go there. I would look for somebody with depth versus being a generalist in today's day and environment and the future. That would be my vote. So get deep on whatever you know, one or two things. Just try and be as deep as you can. There's another question, yeah?
Yes or no question. Go ahead.
You mentioned the only social media you have is LinkedIn. Do you run your own account or does someone run it for you?
I run my own account mostly, and it depends on what we're talking about. But mostly I run my own account. I prefer to do it like that because, but you come with I don't accept invites and LinkedIn requests anymore. I only have a follow button which is active, and again, without trying to sound arrogant or too big for my boots, that's a challenge of where I am and what I do, because if otherwise a lot of and honestly, I don't want to be just accepting everybody who's coming in. It's just a lot of traffic. Then you have to be mindful of the kind of people you want to connect with, etc., etc. And hence, there are certain restrictions that obviously come where I need help. But otherwise, given my own time, I try and manage my own account.
I was going to ask you a follow-up of, may we connect on LinkedIn? I got our answer.
Bikram, do you have any questions for us from the students?
Well, I think a lot of the interaction helped me get a very fresh, get a great perspective on how you folks are thinking. And firstly, I want to congratulate the team here, for trying to build. And of course, I have some insight based on our interactions of what you guys are doing. I want to congratulate the team here for all the work that you do and what you're building out. I think, just Tether, and I think most of the crowd is Tether today, right?
No, it's half Tether, half Masters Union.
Okay. But specifically, if I think of a concept like Tether and what you folks are building out, it's unique. Imagine going to 8 countries. 7 countries, right? Imagine going to 7 countries, getting exposed to businesses there. Wow, I wish I could do that. Those are the times where I think, where I wish I was younger. I wish I could do that. And I think even with Masters Union, what you're building out, the way you run your curriculum, your semesters, getting the practical experience done, I think it's just phenomenal. So congratulations to the team here. So no questions per se, but just lots of encouragement to say that the world is your oyster, all of you folks. The world is your oyster. There's so much that's out there that you folks will get exposed to over the next 10, 15, 20 years. With life changing the way it is, it's going to be a lot of fun. Just enjoy it.
Do you take visitors at the Google office here?
We do, in terms of walk-ins.
Just if students want some exposure to see how the company functions.
See, it has to be organized.
Mm-hmm.
We'll set up tours, etc. Because you can't just randomly
security reasons. Of course. Proper tour. That's what I meant.
Of course.
Okay, done.
I'm happy to host all of you. Google has a famous lunch, if you folks have heard of it. Google lunch is famous, and it is. It is. The first thing that happens when you join Google is first few months you put on weight, right? And
whoever's here is the only one that's invited. Okay, Sudhanshu, can you make sure?
So yeah, I'm happy to host all of you there. People who are probably deeper on topics like AI. Happy to have them spend some time with you, talk to you folks, answer your questions on what's happening in that world. And not just AI, security is another big topic. I don't know how many of you are deeper on that topic. Anybody here who has interest on security and what's happening in security? No? Well, some of you are. But yeah, that's a massive, massive area of opportunity. Massive area of opportunity. What's coming our way? Look, like I said, there are bad actors, and those bad actors are going to continue to do bad things. And unlike most areas of a solution where you say solution done, implemented, security is never done and implemented. You can never put a stamp on something and say done.
Secure forever.
Yeah, because some bad actor is trying to solve for that again, right? So I personally believe security is a huge area of opportunity for the young people here who are thinking of going entrepreneurial. Or even if you're looking at jobs, security is a massive area. One tends to talk a lot about AI. Security as a topic perhaps gets missed, but security is reputational risk for a company. Imagine a bank gets hacked. Who's going to put money in there after that?
It's finished.
So security is reputational risk, right? The brand value of getting compromised on security, your stock could drop 30% in a day. AI, yeah, great. You could build a business, yes. But sometimes just we forget some of those important topics. So happy to have people talk about those topics as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Bikram. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you.